Alright guys, what is going on? Oink here, and today I'm going to just cover a few little quick tips for guys driving with a DualShock. I get asked a lot, and people tell me a lot that they don't have a steering wheel to use and whatnot. So I did used to use a DualShock, so I have some experience with it, and yeah, just thought I'd share a couple of tips that hopefully can improve your game using the DualShock. So this screen here is the default settings for the DualShock, which is what it will come when you when you first play it, or if you haven't changed anything. Now, first of all, I'm going to show you accelerator and brake control. Now, some of you may or may not know that on the DualShock, all of the face buttons are actually pressure sensitive. Most games don't use, the pressure of them. It's just like on or off. But in Gran Turismo, you can obviously use the pressure of, for example, X and square. You can actually just pressure them. Similarly, the D-pad is pressure sensitive. So it does allow for some controllability, for example, with the accelerator and the brake and the steering. However, it is quite touchy, and it's quite hard to be very precise with it, especially when you're driving quickly and you need to be, really accurate with it. So I wouldn't recommend using X and square. So these are my settings that I would use when I'm using the DualShock. Now, first of all, I've switched accelerator and brake to L2 and R2. Now, I know other people like to use the right analog stick up and down, but I prefer L2 and R2, gives you really nice control. I would also recommend driving on manual with gear up and gear down on R1 and L1, then your fingers are right there ready next to the brake and accelerate for shifting. You've got left and right view with the left and right buttons. It's a really handy feature that doesn't come on the DualShock, and then I've just put rear view on square, but I mean all those kind of things you can change yourself. So once you've got that set up, either with the right analog stick or R2 and L2, you can really get easy, precise acceleration and deceleration values. So you can see I can just basically take it 50%, 25%. I can gauge it up and down, and whilst you can do that with X and square, it's really easy and much more accurate if you've got it on the right analog stick or on R2 and L2. The reason I prefer it on the R2 and L2 is that it's kind of easier to feather quickly between them. If you're getting a tiny bit of gas, tiny bit of brake, shift it, going up and down between them, it's very easy with the R2 and L2. Whereas with the right analog stick, it's well, you can only be going up or down. You can't have both at the same time, so it's a little bit harder to flick between the two quickly. Also, I'd recommend, on steering wise, driving with the left analog stick. This is also, I find it a little bit more uncomfortable using the right analog stick to accelerate and decelerate whilst using the left analog stick to drive, so that's also why you like to use L2 and R2. And again, over the D-pad, that gives much better controllability, and much more availability for accuracy. You can see there with L2 and R2, L1 and R1 for the gear shifting. Again, that's very quick. Your fingers are right there next to the L2 and R2 for acceleration. Finally, you can change the controller sensitivity. This is, the top left is with the most sensitive, the bottom right is the least sensitive, and that basically just changes how quickly you can turn from one lock to the other lock. That's all it does. It doesn't actually increase your actual turning capabilities, but it increases how quickly you'll go from lock to lock. So if you're finding that when you hold it all the way to the right, it just doesn't turn quick enough, then that's probably something that you want to increase a little bit. Or if you're finding that it's a little bit too difficult to be accurate, then you can turn it down a little bit. You can get that just exactly how you want. So there's just a few quick little tips that I would highly recommend for anyone using a DualShock 3. That's how I used to drive when I didn't have a wheel with those settings, and it really will allow you to become much more accurate and a lot more close to how you could be driving with a wheel. So yeah, I hope you've found this helpful, anyone who drives with a DualShock, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.